Hello, good evening, and welcome to Talking Dogs. On this Tuesday evening, as you can see, Mr. Fortune is away again. Tuesday is not a good day for him. He has to complete some community service on a Tuesday, but he will be back again next Monday evening. But I am joined by Tommy Lyons, as usual, on a Tuesday night. Well, usually is a Monday night. Tommy, how's things with you?
Good, yeah. Geez, Ian has some handy life, doesn't he?
Well, yeah, Park. Well, he's nearly finished his community service now at this stage. I think this is his last few hours, so he'll be back for the long haul now, starting from next week. Tommy, great racing again over the weekend, Friday, Saturday night. The big race was in Shelbourne Park on Saturday night, the final of the Shelbourne Open 600. And once again, Tom O'Neill, as he did 9 years ago with Ballyhooly Henry, goes on to win the big one with Ballyhooly Bruno, a dog who's sort of improved throughout the competition. He was very good in a 5.75 in Shelbourne Park before the start of the competition when he showed good early pace. And Saturday night, he sort of got his trapping boots back. Trap one is not an ideal trap to come out of in the 5.75/600, but he started well. And once he led, it was always going to be tough to pick him up.
Yeah, he looked. We were talking about this. Ian and I were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. And was it the Winter Racing Festival? Maybe I can't, it was, or Derby finalised that he produced a huge performance. He just took off into the bend. It was deeply impressive. We had been kind of building him up a little bit for this when we spoke. Was the last week, the week before? He's a very very good dog when he does things right. And actually, you know what? There's a nice bit of depth into the race in the race itself. But I have the world of time for Tom O'Neill as a trainer. I don't think he has huge numbers. I don't think he's ever really kind of had, the kind of huge numbers where you're going to see him at every track every week. But he does really well with what he has. And Ballyhooly Bruno is testament to that. I think it's a really good display because Sing Along Molly came there with every chance. Callaway Kinar, just again, not sure where we stand with him at the moment. And we did talk about Balboa Gym and in the feeling that he wasn't 1 or 2 runs away from being at his best. He was a few more than that. So, not a wildly surprising result, I would say. But I think the fourth one was probably a reasonable enough SP, was it?
Yeah, it was. Considering he was 4-1 to win it outright before the semi-finals, and he was in a
Yeah.
tough enough semi-final, and he came through that winning it. Yeah, 4-1 looked decent. I just think a lot of people just have this idea in their head that the trap one in Shelbourne Park over the 5.75 can be tricky enough to come away from, and it can. In fairness, he's missed it out of that for the last two runs, but yeah, mighty impressive performance. Tom O'Neill, you'd know more about Tom O'Neill than me, Tommy. I presume did he have Ballyhooly TJ as well? That dog that ran over 750 recently.
Yeah, Tom's an excellent operator. He really is. And he's patient with them. It's not often you see the pups coming out and doing real flashy times and that sort of stuff. You can do them and you can have them in the top one race stakes, but he'll if he gets them to them, he tends to take his time just to try to get the best, tease the best out of the dog over a course of time. It's a way I like it to be done. So I kind of probably a reason I have a soft spot for Tom and the way he trains greyhounds. He's a really really good operator.
It's funny you say that about the unraced. He did start off this dog in the red
Mm.
hot Kilkenny unraced stake where he bumped up against Bocco's Diamond. He made it to the semi final of that, so that's no mean feat. We've seen what good competition the unraced in Kilkenny was last year. We'll touch on it again in a couple of minutes about this year's event, but yeah, he always showed plenty of promise. Huge congratulations to Tom O'Neill and the Ashgrove Trio Syndicate. Sing along, Molly ran a cracker back in second place, Tommy. And look, we know how strong Ballyhooly Bruno is, but there was a moment around the top end that
Yeah.
you go, this bitch is going to go past. But in fairness to the winner, I think Ian wrote in his article, he said he pinned his ears back and ran all the way to the line. But Sing Along Molly must have given Connections a real sort of here we go moment off the last bend.
And you know what? She ran a cracker and it just do it was such a good final because there was nothing really between them in terms of early pace. Probably, I think, how often do you see in a big final where they go to all the way from the 5.75, 600 yard boxes all the way to the line to the bend, sorry, and maybe a length and a half, 2 lengths between the six of them. That's how good and how tight it was. And like she probably was caught in a little bit in the middle in the middle of that and just couldn't get around, to get a real clear run. But you know what? She I don't know. I wouldn't say she maybe. It's hard to know. Did she maybe put her nose in front on those two on the bins? Maybe she did just for a
Yeah.
second. And you know what? She didn't give up all the way to the line. But Ballyhooly Bruno is a really strong dog, really really strong dog. And as I said to you, like you were talking about him starting off in the unrace, I just think in fairness to Tom, you know, if you look at that dog now, it's some like the lights have to change here on the screen. Sorry. So if you look at that, if you look at him as a dog now and compare him to the dog that was in an unrace, he's not really the type that's going to excel in that type of unrace, is he? Like, do you know what I mean? He's one
Yeah,
that's going to
yeah,
need time anyway, and I think that's what he's done exceptionally well with him.
yeah. It's a decent one for his sire as well. I must mention him, Jacob Tachadelic. Doesn't have a whole lot of bitches, but he has getting he's getting some nice dogs as well. Callaway Kinar, where do we stand on Callaway Kinar, Tommy? Last week I watched the race over the far side with Dennis Murphy, and he was well ahead on the sectional clock. You can see the clocks over the far side as well on the back of the clock, and I think he might have had 3 or 4 lengths in hand on all the rest of the field at the third bend. I mean, no, he's so strong, but I was maybe a shade disappointed with him. I thought he came out reasonably well on Saturday night, and I expected him to go to the front, and he just got outpaced by those 600 dogs and left himself with a lot to do. Look, he stayed on well enough. He was only beaten 3 lengths back in third place, but yeah, after his start, I thought he would have went up a little bit better.
Yeah, look, he's done a 599 section, which is 8 spots lower than the previous week. But like 8 spots turns into 24, 25, 30 spots if you because of where it can put you in a race, by
Mm.
where you have to track differently or where you run into a little bit of trouble or whatever. Like it's a big difference at the start of a race. Um, where do we stand with him? I don't really know.
What
He's a
about
Derby dog now.
would you consider the current Cullen maybe to give his confidence a little bit of a boost? Like he gets 600 yards strongly. We've seen it before with some of these dogs. Like I think the good dog, Toronto Charlie is a prime example, was just getting outpaced in these red hot 550, 600s, and they stepped him up to 750. Callaway Kinar, for me, is a much better dog over 4 bends than Toronto Charlie was. And I just think, look, it could do his confidence the world of good, Callaway Kinar, because I think in his last 5 or 6 races, he's had a bit of bump and he's been challenged or crowded here and there. Maybe to step up to 750. He has the ability to trap, which is a huge asset in those 750s, but it's only 50 yards to the bend. And maybe the couple of, if he gets out in front, he'd be hard to beat. Like we've seen Priceless Jet go well in the 750, a real 4 bend there, as I mentioned, Toronto Charlie. And look, those dogs stepped back then for the Derby and ran reasonably well. Look, Toronto Charlie was very unlucky to be knocked out of the Derby, as too was Priceless Jet. So would you consider going down the 750 route for him?
Well, probably would. I mean, what have you got to lose at this stage? He's a dog that's been in a Derby final, finished third, ran his heart out, even though we kind of all believed at the time that he wasn't quite at his best, that he was just some tiny little thing that was holding him back from producing his very best. I mean, the reason we're having the conversation now about whether a dog like him should run over 750 just for confidence is because we rate him so highly in terms of, and he's already shown the ability. We don't have to rate him at all. The ability's there, it's on his card. Um, like he's never been a prolific winner. And maybe you're onto something there, that if he could get a few runs where he could get his head in front and go clear and win with a bit of a swagger. Um, like would you consider him a Derby dog now for this year, based on where he is at the moment?
He's just not, like, we got to remember he's a juvenile Derby winner over 525, and he's just not shown that same sort of zip into the corner. For some reason, I don't know if look, he's obviously 100%. He done a massive run last week, but he's just not shown the same sparkle in the early parts of his races. Look, I know he was coming from off the pace to win a 525 juvenile Derby, but yeah, I don't know. Like, what else is there for him between now and the Derby? Over here, as regards 4 bend trips, you'd probably give him a break and go for the Champion Stakes in the Derby, or I don't know. Like it's hard to. He had a decent break after the Derby. It's hard to sort of ease back off him again and then go again for the Champion Stakes. So I don't know. As I said, we've just seen. Look, Owen McKenna would know much more than me about greyhounds, but we've seen it before in the past. Dogs can step up to 750 and come back from the Derby. Westmead Hawk indeed done it as well. Lots of dogs have done it, and it can just do his confidence the world of good.
Look at. I don't think you have a lot to lose in doing it now and trying it now, but or if you really go searching, maybe you might find a couple of lesser races, open races over 550 or 575 600 that he can maybe farm a little bit, but you might have to travel a bit with him. But I look at this stage, it'd be hard to say that you'd be pinning your colours to the mast to say that he's a Derby dog now. Like you'd like to see more. You'd like to see, as you say, consistent spark as well. Consistent spark, saying that kind of know what he's going to do out of traps. I kind of know where he'd be at the bend. You need to that sort of thing. You need, but look, it's a while away to Derby. There's no point in doing 29. You could do it, run over 550, doing 29.10 this week and do it next week and the week after. We've seen dogs do that in the past. Do it early season and then not be able to produce it when they come up against better, fresher dogs, come later in the year. So look, I'm not writing them off completely, but I'm not interested in backing them either.
He's still a hell of a greyhound and still has a big future ahead of him. So good luck to Dennis Murphy and Owen McKellar with Callaway Kinar going forward. Balboa Gym, well, he really caught the public's imagination, I suppose. Tommy coming back into this competition, he too should have been the Derby finalist last year, along with Callaway Kinar, only for injury struck down the back straight when he looked long odds on to qualify. Maybe these 3 runs just caught him out a little bit, but look, he could be running himself into fitness. It's great to see him back anyway, first and foremost. Didn't quite get his start that he had got in the opening round and the semi-final, but nonetheless, he's only a length behind Callaway Kinar. He's only beaten just under 5 lengths for winning it. And look, more than anything else, it's great to see him back on the track.
Well, I'd be one that would argue all day that he's run massive in all 3 runs, and the reason being, you come back off an injury, you come back off a long layoff. It's 600 yards is the biggest test in greyhound racing. The 600 yards, three long straights. We felt after the first round that there's a potential that he might go backwards a little bit off it. He didn't. He ran another cracking race in the semi-finals, and he didn't lead the other night, and yet he didn't get massive trouble. Slightly held up with the first bender, pushed off very, very slightly. Nothing major in it. Held 3rd place down around the last 2 bends. It was only late on that he conceded 3rd position. I'd have it down as a massive run. I think it's clever enough to, if you're it's clever enough to kind of run them into over 600, because you tend to get a little less trouble when there's a longer run to the bend and dogs get a chance to sort themselves out. And he clearly needed the outings. Clearly needed them. He was a real kind of hunter's dog, or kind of fan's dog there during the Derby, because we were just imagining, he came from a little bit from nowhere and he was putting in big efforts every week in the Derby. So I think he'll be popular going to Toaster. I just hope it just doesn't come too soon now on the back of three runs. Ideally, what I would like now, and I'm not a trainer and I'm not training him, and I don't know the ins and outs of exactly how, all dogs are slightly different, although there is a kind of a way to tackle, or maybe looking at that, how you approach each dog training of it. Ideally, I'd like a couple of weeks break now for him, which he's obviously not going to get, but you would like a couple of weeks to get the benefit of those 3 runs, and then maybe see build up to him back to where he was in the Derby last year after maybe 2 or 3 runs. Now, it's a possibility that he'll get a couple of handy heats over in Toaster, and that maybe we will see it in the 3rd or 4th round in Toaster. So hopefully that happens.
Yeah, the news, he is going for the English Derby. Will run under the Pat Buckley banner, but his son Brendan Murphy so proud. I wish him the best of luck over in England. Timmy's Bucks and Glenlara Blue, 2 really, really good greyhounds. Tommy, Glenara Blue is very consistent around Shelbourne Park, as too is Timmy's Bucks. Great achievement for these 2 dogs to make the final, but they're in that bracket that they're just that 2 or 3 lengths off the very, very best.
Yeah, and look, it's not a bad bracket to be in. I've never had a dog that's been 2 or 3 lengths off that bracket, so I wouldn't mind one of them myself. It must be a thrill. Even there were 2 outsiders, 18 and 33 to 1 on the night. It still must be a thrill to be in there, because you don't know. Anything can happen in a greyhound race. I know that's it's kind of a phrase I hate to use, because there's no point in you and I studying form if we think absolutely anything can happen. We have to kind of find a way to figure it out. But like if you have a dog in a final, no matter what price it is, you're thinking, you just never know. So they're smashing dogs, and it's great achievement, as you said, get to the final.
Yeah, well, it's the weekend belongs to Ballyhooly Bruno, Tom O'Neill and the Ashgrove Trio Syndicate. Congratulations to you guys, and well done. A 2nd win in the 600 for Tom O'Neill.
We were delighted with the draw. He likes the rails, and he just wants to be on the inside. He's great early pace when he gets going. He's a bit frustrated leaving traps sometimes, but he got it perfect tonight. We're delighted. Jim Dowling and his wife and son, they're the trio in the Ashgrove Syndicate, and Jim's wife is Rose Lennon, actually Denny Lennon's sister in Kilkenny, so that's where the dog came from actually. But they're a great syndicate, and they buy a dog or 2 every year off of Tom Lennon, and they're very lucky. I'd say he'll get a bit of a break now, because he had 3 runs here now and he had 2.75 prior to that, so we'll just give him a short break, but we'll see then. I suppose Derby will be the next step anyway.
Shelbourne Park Greyhound Stadium is celebrating 25 amazing years. Join us Friday, May 16th for a fantastic night to celebrate with half-price entry, free finger food and live music after the racing. Gates open from 6 p.m. Don't miss the party at Shelbourne Park.
Now, also on the card at Shelbourne Park on Saturday night, just want to give a special mention to a dog. Check for Sure, Tommy, won the sixth race, a little final, the This Runs Deep Open 550 final. That's now his 25th win of his career, and he's touching on 5 years of age for the Cashback Syndicate. And most of his races have come at the very, very highest level. And a quick look through his form, some of the dogs that he beat over his career: Ballymacfin, Carrick Allo, Coolavani Hoffa, JT Craze, Anna Bailey, Deladi Da, Gizmo Cash, Gate Time, Hugo. He could go on and on and on against the quality of dogs he raced against. He actually raced against Droopy's Dancer, beat Droopy's Dancer, and she's now gone on to be the dam of Droopy's Kathleen and Toolmaker Giuseppe and Jack Tavern Boom and all that. That shows you how long he is on the go. He won the Dublin Cup unbeaten. He won the Deadly Kennels A2 down in Kilkenny unbeaten. He also won the All Stages at the Winter Racing Festival. And as I say, over €25,000 in prize money. He must be, we're talking about owning the other two that got to the final, Timmy's Bucks and Glenlara Blue, but to own a dog like Check for Sure must be a dream come true for any owner.
Geez, 25 runs. But what's most impressive to me is that, most of the time, by the time a greyhound gets to that age, they probably drop to A4, A5, A6. This dog is running in the mini open in Shelbourne Park and worth £2,000 to the winner. And he's showing all that spark, that early pace, and that's the first thing you lose as they get older is that bit of early pace, I mean, and that's just it's impressive. What a terrific dog to own if you're ever lucky enough to get a dog. 25 wins. He's even placed numerous other times. I think 13 times second, 11 times third. And actually, there's a beautiful. I'm just looking at his form now. 25 firsts, 13 seconds, 11 thirds, 10 fourths, 8 fifths, 6 sixths. Goes in the right order. Yeah, it goes in the slide in the right order. I mean, that's a kind of a dream dog. He's not going to win a derby. He never did win a derby, but got a dream dog to own.
Yeah, he is, and great night there for the Ramsbottoms on Saturday night. Mia, Carol's eldest daughter, was there to pick up to meet Check for Sure. I know he's a big favourite down there, and he already has his place booked on the sofa when he's finished. But he's an old dog. There's a bit of life left in him yet. Maybe he might go and win another All Stagers on the card at Shelbourne Park. So well done, Carol Ramsbottom, Cashback Syndicate and Check for Sure. Also on the card, we had a dead heating race. Now, I haven't seen one of those in a while. Coolavani Shona and Costly Lesson couldn't be separated in the 9th race. And a dog I want to give a big mention to, I thought he was very, very impressive on the card in the 10th race, was Skid Row Joe for Owen McKenna. This dog seems to be improving and improving. Again, a dog that's won the Dublin Cup. Don't like these clutchies winning the Dublin Cup, but however, he was impressive when he won the Dublin Cup. There was lots of money for Toolmaker Giuseppe in here. Didn't show a great deal of early pace into the corner, and his race was gone at the first bend as Check for Cash and Skid Row Joe duel down the back straight. I honestly thought Check for Cash was going to win at this stage because he was so impressive last week. I think he'd done a monster run, 28-13, and I thought he would outpace Skid Row Joe into the third bend. But my God, mighty impressed by Skid Row Joe to get the better of Check for Cash down the back straight and pull away from him coming home in 29.66. Very, very impressive run by Skid Row Joe for Owen McKenna.
And look, and it's probably most impressive from the halfway down the back to the third bend where he makes that couple of lengths. After that, in fairness to Check for Cash, he's staying at it hard all the way to the line, and he's keeping it to 2 lengths. But it was from halfway, even to get upside the dog actually early, but then got to just he seems to quicken from the halfway into the third bend, and that's most impressive. You'd like the fact that his profile is suggesting he's very much going the right direction. Like you said, he won the Dublin Cup, which is an A2, A3 final. That was in February, and he's now running in top open company and impressing like that. He's very much in the right direction.
Yeah, he was very impressive on the night, I must say. Also a double on the card for Sean Conway. Well done to you, Sean. That completes the action then from Shelbourne Park on Saturday night. Just go back a day, and the race we'll always call the Peggy Kelly Sprint, Tommy, but it's now called the Island Bridge Sprint at Shelbourne Park on Friday night. First of the 3 heats were won by Sonia Akora for Jack Kennelly. This dog now has 4 wins from 4 races. Beat the wonderfully consistent Zippy Canning. When we give Check for Sure to mention, we must mention Zippy Canning. He's in around the same age and he's still running as well as ever in these top sprint contests. But Sung Young Cora, he's at the other end of the scale, very young son of Grangeview 10, and he makes it 4 from 4, Tommy. A very impressive card, this fella.
Probably seemed to lose his footing on the crown of the bends. You noticed that he seemed to tailwind up, and he just seemed to slip a little bit, and there was sand flying as far as I could see on Sonia and Cora at the round the crown of the two bends. Makes it even more impressive that he's doing 1873 and beating Zippy Canning by 3 lengths. He's look, Ian's talked quite a bit about Jack Kennelly in the last couple of years, and how good he is as a trainer. I think that's a very impressive display. Really good,
Yeah.
and probably can break a little bit better.
Yeah, fastest of the opening round. Teresa Mendoza, of course, was a cracking bitch. I think she had 28:07. First 4 qualified. Zippy Canning, as I said, ran well back in second place. There's definitely more to come from Mind Your Mind, and Highview return for the Merrymans qualified back in 4th place. On to the second heat. This one was won by Erin Perks, a bitch who was 13 wins, I think, Tommy, from her 23 starts for Thomas and Johnny Regan. She's an incredible card, and I've never seen a bitch come out of traps as quick, and her instant acceleration was electric.
It's insane, is what it looks like. It's look at you not. There are the dogs in behind, and they're obviously the top level dogs. They are going into the bend faster than she is, but they're just taking that bit to warm up. My God, if you could that's another thing we talked about, Ian. If you could bottle that with the Mina dog as well, Mina Minsk, the way it comes out of traps and accelerates immediately. That sort of stuff. It's that level of kind of breaking, deeply impressive. Epic Ace, I think the insane commentary may be forced to check. I think it just checked itself. Epic Ace. I'm not sure. No, it was showing a lot of pace into the bend, but it was still about a length and a half behind the one in front. It didn't run into the back of the leader around the two bends, but actually ran a very, very good race. Epic Ace in defeat. So I think there'll probably be a bit more to come from that, and probably it has been seeded middle. I'm not sure it is seeded middle to forward. I'm not sure that's exactly where it wants to be.
He'd probably be the one. I was there on Friday night. He probably would be the one I'd take from the competition if it was to pick one going forward. Epic Ace. I just thought he'd done a bit wrong, but still showed plenty of pace. Southwind Wild as well supported, qualified back in 3rd place. Westside Ranger back in 4th at the big price there. We lost Second Treasure there for Graham Kelly. He's been a good dog around there for some time, but badly bogged at the first bend and lost all chance. Another hot pot was turned over in the 7th race on the card, which was the 3rd opening round heat. It's Stone Park Brown. We've seen this dog run so well down in the Kirby at Limerick, Tommy. Showing electric early pace. Obviously didn't stay the trip. Won well on his Dublin debut a couple of weeks ago in there in a sprint, but he was put in against the big boys here. Trap 1, probably not an ideal draw for one with so much inexperience, I suppose. But it was Dear Store for Lawrence Jones. I think Lawrence had a double on the card there as well. I think he had the last winner too. Broke really smartly. Import Duty showed huge pace into the corner to get up the inside of Dear Store, and it looked at that stage it was game over, but Dear Store put the head down and rallied to get up close home with the ever consistent Road Exile back in 3rd place.
Yeah, Road Exile seems he's been in every sprint competition since I was a child. He just seems to be around forever. He's a terrific dog at the level.
He's something else.
5 to 5 as well, actually true. Every decent competition he's just been in it. Stone Park Brown, I just wouldn't be ruling it out yet. Oftentimes we see dogs that have electric early pace over 4 bends, and then they go to, you think, well, and doesn't stay, and you say that's a definite sprinter. Just takes a little bit of time to adjust. It's a different discipline. It's a very different discipline. He actually was unlucky. I know it was the slowest of the heats, 1894. It's just still a good time. He got, after missing the kick, showing pace up, not a huge amount of room. And then he tried to come back at them again in the straight, and just a little bit of greenness as well as everything else. So I wouldn't be ruling out that he might win this competition just yet.
Yeah, he's gone from running against sort of raw puppies over 4 bends down in Limerick to running against crack sprinters over 2 bends. So it's a huge sort of culture shock for him.
Yeah, like if you come up against the likes of Erin Perks, you're learning on the job, but you've got to learn fairly quickly.
Yeah, you do indeed. The semi-finals of the Island Bridge Sprint will be run at Shelbourne Park on Friday night. Before we head to Kilkenny, Tommy, I just seen yesterday we had the return to action of Broadstrand Sid down in Cork. He ran well over 5:25 for Johnny Lenihan. Didn't come out great, picked it up around the opening bend, shot into a decent lead down by the third bend, and he tied up quite badly on the way home. But good to see him back on the track, Tommy Broadstrand said. He won the Dundalk sprint last year. That's not too far away, so I'd say he could be on the comeback for that. But good to see him back on the track.
That's what you want to see. You want to see the likes of dogs that quality back in action. The connections have had to be patient. It must be frustrating when you have a dog as good as that, and you have to. It was kind of the run, even in fairness, was reminiscent of his previous runs where he kind of moved in and got onto the rails. Actually showed unbelievable pace to get to the front and actually go a bit clear, as you said, just tied up a bit and dead heat for second place. But I take it as a very positive start anyway.
Yeah, okay. Speaking of positive starts, a lot of greyhounds had the first start of their career down in Kilkenny, the Kilkenny Track Champion Open Unrace 525. Won last year, of course, by Bocco's Diamond Broadstrands. Did run well in that competition as well. And certainly, I think we might have seen a couple of stars of the future or so down there on Friday night. The first heat was won by Montana Shadow in 28.71. This one for Barry and Martin O'Reilly, trained by Johnny Linehan, who leads us into Broadstrand Sid. Lenny's tank here was very well supported for Paul Hennessy. He'd done all sorts of qualifying trials. I think he broke the track record actually in a sprint qualifying trial. But look, Montana Shadow, a nice one for his sire, Droopy Flightline. Early pace, out and gone, made all. There was trouble in behind. He wins by 11 lengths. But yeah, nothing wrong with that debut.
He was going to win regardless of the trouble, wasn't he? But
he was, yeah.
you know, the trouble behind. But now, in saying that, Lemmy's tank did get crowded a little bit early on and all that sort of stuff. But Barry and Martin O'Reilly are a long time around in the game. They're from my part here down south. They've always had again, not a team with huge numbers, but a team with very good greyhounds. You know, and you know you'd always respect them when they run their dogs. Johnny Linehan training this one for them. What's not to like? What's not to like about it when you can do 28.91? It's a shame for Lemmy Tank and probably a shame for the competition that he didn't manage to get through. He did, in fairness to him, he showed a good attitude for a dog of no experience to try get up and around after being squeezed out. Showed a lot of pace, a huge amount of promise. Obviously, even despite the fact that he finished last in the heat.
Yeah, there's a couple of options coming up for dogs that were knocked out of this. Of course, you have the Produce Stakes is starting quite shortly, and then the Shelbourne Champion 550 will be on. So look, it could end up being a blessing in disguise if you were to go somewhere else, but certainly not a dog to give up on. Lenny's tank, after the promise he showed in trial. Well done to Montana Shadow, Martin and Barry O'Reilly and Johnny Linehan. The second heat was won by Zenith Scorpion. This one for Biron Ladir and Corona Ryan. 28.97. The track was marked 20 slow, so 28.77. Again, the comments fast away, always led.
Yeah, probably 4 and 5. Ballymacamala and looking leap were possibly headed slightly into the bend.
They went up really well at two of those. You couldn't actually see the four bits in between them.
No, you couldn't. Is right. You couldn't. Is right. There was one thing I'd like about this winner. I like the way when it came out of traps, it came out very slightly sideways, and then accelerated really quickly. And it's generally the way it came out to me is like a dog that's hunting the hare mad. And that's exactly what you want to see in a pup at that age. Like the performance. It's look, we're going to come up now talking in a minute about a sensational display. But like if you own a dog that can do 28.97 in the first round and leave the impression that it's going to improve quite a bit, you'd be happy enough, wouldn't you?
Yeah, certainly. I do think there's more to come from Ballymacamala and look and let both made a bit of trouble. But again, early pace wins the day. Now, you were saying we've seen a couple of outstanding displays and probably heading that list or up thereabouts with Carrick Scosey for Tom Glynn, Rob Gleeson, 28.68 again marked 40 slow. I think he clocked 16.58 to the third bend. He did clock 15.8 to the third bend because I have it wrote down in front of me. He did clock 16.58. No point in saying I think he did. He did. This was mighty impressive. 7.5 lengths outgone and kept going all the way to the line.
You know, I was going to say that I thought he tracked exceptionally well as well, which is easier to do obviously when you're on your own, you're out in the clear. But like Kenny's a track you and I probably don't see a huge amount of, but the long run to the bend, it's obviously circumference wise, it's obviously a shorter track, but the long run to the bend for 525s is a joy because it tends to lend itself towards good, mainly clean racing. You obviously will have a bit of trouble, but this was. And I looked at a lot of the dogs. One of the things I noticed the other day was a lot of the dogs tend to run the first couple of bends really, really well. Um, Again, as I said to you, it's a track I don't know enough about because obviously dogs that can do fast times here can do it anywhere. But this lad blew me away. I thought it was hugely impressive. Loved absolutely everything about it. Loved the way he went to the bend. He obviously wanted inside a little bit early on. If you were trying to find any little bit of a reason to kind of temper it slightly, but I mean, geez, it's his first run. But when he did get in there, he tracked around well. He kind of went a little bit wide. It's not the widest track in the world. He went a bit wide down the back straight. That's coursing the hare, and he's on his own. He's entitled to do it. But to maintain us all the way to 28.68 and win by 7.5 lengths, I mean, I don't know. I haven't, it's a while since I've seen a debut that impressive.
No, it was very impressive as well. Strange sire, I suppose. Drupi Scolari, for me, I would have thought he's gone now, 6-7 years. Would you think that yourself? But
Yeah.
Still producing them. For me, I thought visually one of the most impressive winners of the night was Penny's Mr. Darcy, and it was just what he done on the run home. I thought visually what he done from off the last bend up to the line was just sensational. He wins in 28.70, take off the 20. He's clocking, what's he clocking to the third bend? 16.85. So he's a good maybe 3 lengths off Carrick Scholesy at that stage. But he comes home almost 3 lengths quicker than Carrick Scholesy. And if you haven't seen the video of this race yet, if the viewers are watching at home tonight, go back and have a look at this race, because visually to the eye, when he comes off the last bend and when he goes past the line, you really do think somebody's after hand slipping him from the 5-5 tops for the first time. It looks as though he's going as quick into the corner the first time as he is coming home. And I remember seeing that with a bitch Kildallan made years ago in Shelbourne Park when she came off the last bend and just was maybe 2 lengths ahead and wins by maybe 10. And it's hard to comprehend that, because usually you see these dogs coming from behind something and you can say, oh, he really finished well. But when they're out in front on their own, it's hard to say they finished well. But I thought this was mighty impressive, Penny's Mr. Darcy.
It certainly was, Barry. He came off the last bend, right? And you're right, it's deeply impressive. He's striding hellishly fast passes, and it's a great visual. The camera's low and you kind of get a good chance to see it. But he came ridiculously tight off the last bend, which you'd love him to be an inside seed. But then if you watch the start of the race, his first few steps were a step to the right and stayed out there for about 10, 25 yards maybe. And then whether it's the track or the dog, I do not know yet, obviously, he was cutting across inside. He definitely went middle to wide down the back. Again, it's not the widest track in the world, so that doesn't tell me a huge amount. By God, the way he came off the last bend, I mean, he nearly took the paint off the rails. He's a middle seed, as all dogs are, first time up, unless there's a request for change. I'm just interested to see how he tracks next time. In against a little bit of depth. Will he I think, like you, I think he's most impressive in the second half of the race. I mean, I just want to see, will he do that come middle to wide? He's entitled to improve. He's going to improve like all the dogs in this competition. He's going to step up considerably for it. I was blown away by the Carrick Scholesy, but this isn't far behind. I'm interested to see on the seeding side of things. Obviously, the Scholesy dog wants inside. Just interested to see what he does if he's behind a dog of that sort of caliber. What way he might deal with it down there. Penny's Mr. Darcy. And what I mean by that isn't crabbing the dog. What I mean is, before he's ready to win a competition like this, might just need a little bit of experience of doing things like that. Is that not unfair?
Yeah, look, he couldn't.
Or is it?
He's open to any amount of improvement. As you say, if he's this side of the track, that side of the track, it can be a positive thing as well, because he's learning as he goes along. So I'm sure he'll step forward.
I'm not saying that he's not the fastest dog in the competition. He might well be. He might well turn out to be the fastest dog in the competition. I'm not taking that from him, but I'm just saying for the purposes purely of this competition and not beyond it, because I was really taken by that. Like the camera angle helps you to appreciate it, the low camera, but just how good and how quick he was off that last bend. It's just that he was so tight. And look at he might be a perfect middle seed, because if there's nothing inside you, what's the point in wasting the ground? Like, if you're that type of dog, you're that fast and you're really intent on trying to catch that hare, because he was any dog that drives off the last bend as hard as he did, is chasing mad. It's a perfect sign for a greyhound, and he was in good competition. I think I thought Certificate in second ran very well. There was a little bit of trouble in behind, a kind of little bit of crowding at the last bend, and maybe the 10 lengths grew partly because of that, but it was mainly because Penny's Mr. Darcy was absolutely motoring home. I'd be fascinated to see him next week.
Yeah, he absolutely flew home. I urge you to have a look at that race again. He was a good winner for Huge Ian and Rosemary Price, but he has been sold. He will remain with Huge Ian and Rosemary for the duration of the competition, and then we'll move to Carol Ramsbottom, who has organised a syndicate to take this Penny's Mr. Darcy going forward. On to the 8th race. Jeff Parnaby has been flying with his Tars na Maasai up in Shelbourne Park in recent weeks and months, and he got another winner here. There's a little bit of trouble in this heat. Perhaps 2 Unanimous Leo and Deadly Reuben were well fancy, but Tars na Blaze tracked well enough and got in front of the 2 sort of fancied runners off the second bend and went on to win. Time wasn't as quick as some of the other times, but look, he's a nice card now. He's 1 race, 1 win, and it's in the opening round of Kilkenny Unrace Champion 5-5.
And yeah, and like, there's a dog that is a middle seed, or maybe even a wide seed. I mean, he never looked really, apart from at the third bend where most tracks for a dog will cut across. And that's about the only point that he even flirted with going near the rails. He's a middle seed. He's I think just looking at the way he gallops and everything else, he's going to improve quite a bit from this, actually.
Yeah, 6-1. As I say, Unanimous Leo was well fancied back in second, 4-5. As 2 was Deadly Reuben. So you'll probably look at their cards next week and go 29-28, 29-39. They have a lot to find, but I certainly wouldn't rule out those 2. I think they've got huge scope for improvement. On to the final of the 6 heats, and this was won again by Owen McKenna, another very, very impressive winner. Clondotty Mark, very well bred. Ballymacasha, Clondotty Amy, 28.64 calculated, and his run to the third bend was 16.74. So look, he's a nice dog going forward for John Lahey and Owen McKenna. He was impressive too on the night, Tommy.
He was, because he didn't fly out of boxes and had to show lovely acceleration to get into the bend. Yes, we talked about a minute ago about how there's a long run to the bend, which is great for racing. He showed lovely pace to do that, and then obviously the distance is exaggerated because the 3 dog, and I can't remember what it was. There was a bit of trouble down. It was the top dog. There was a bit of trouble down into the third bend, and obviously the winning margin was 10.5 lengths, but Clondotty Mark was home and hose at that stage anyway. I mean, I'd like to see the Greyhounds going to come from behind in 28.84 in the first round of an unraced champion unraced.
Yeah, there's not too many going to come from behind, especially down in Kilkenny. It's tight enough, I just say. The second round of that competition will be ran next Friday night, and look, the Greyhounds down there are open to all sorts of improvement. So we could see some even more improved efforts next week. That's it from the Irish side of things, Tommy. We have the English Greyhound Derby starting on Thursday, 2 days away. I think there's 11 heats on Thursday, 11 Friday, and 11 Saturday. Let's moan first. People always say, I love a moan. I do love a moan. 33 heats. I think 25 of the heats, or 26 of the heats, are 5-dog races. I wouldn't be a huge fan of that. What are your thoughts?
I'm not a huge fan. It's like, can understand the balance between wanting to give everybody a chance. Everybody who wants to be involved, you want to give them a chance. Yeah, it's an extra round for the sake of an extra round, is it?
Yeah, that's why
I'm not a huge fan of that now. If you haven't got the dogs to fill the boxes, don't go trying to extend it for the sake of extending it. It's just giving dogs an extra run for the sake of an extra run. I'm really not a fan of that.
Yeah, that's at least we agree on something, Tommy. Give us one you like at a big price. I'll go first, Tommy. I like a dog called Randolph Scots of Peter Cronin's. Peter's went well before in the English Derby. I just think I wrote an article last week and I put him and a couple of others up. I just think he comes in here with the right sort of a profile. He's not too many miles on the clock, but he has that bit of experience. He has done the big runs. He's the 29-29 in Shelbourne Park in the semi-final of the Easter Cup. I think that is the fastest time of the year for the 550 in Shelbourne Park. Granted, there's probably only been about 50 odd races so far, maybe even 40 races. But there was an entire Easter Cup over the trip. He actually clocked a really, really good time for a sprint over there on yesterday or the day before. I'm not up there with my sprint times, but 15:60. I think it's a ridiculously fast time. I wouldn't say it's too far off the clock. And he just comes in here with the right sort of a profile for me. He was 66-1 before he done that trial the other day. I'd say he's a little bit shorter now, but I think he's one that can go fairly close. What about yourself? Have you got anything at a half decent price, or are you going to stick in the Bacchus Diamond camp?
No, I'm not. I'm not going to stick in the Rocket Diamond camp at all. And not that I do want the dog to win. I want him to win impressively, come back, win an Irish Derby, and then we can talk about a dog for all time. And one of the greatest, probably the greatest ever, if he can do something like that. But like, it's Toaster, which is not a simple track. You can get funny results in Toaster at times. It's also he's 9-2 to win a Derby. I was weighing this up. And like obviously we had a bit of touch out of him last year when the Irish Derby started backing him reasonably early and whatever else. But I talked about this before with Ian. I think I might have mentioned it to you as well. I just kind of there's no skin in the game here, but I just really liked what the dog achieved last year in the Irish Derby, and thought he was one of the most exciting dogs I'd seen for a long, long, long time, probably for decades. And I kind of worry that he'll you know he'll lose that bit of gloss if he starts getting beaten here or beaten in Irish Derby. You know what I mean? It just takes a
Yeah.
little bit away. So I kind of I kind of want him to go and win it and do something amazing throughout the competition, but I don't think that I want to back him at 9-2 to find out whether he's going to do it or not. He's the type of dog that I'd be happy enough if he wins it, that I won't worry about having missed 9-2. And for a punter, seems like a stupid thing to say, but it's just the price. It's just the price of Toaster. Like I liked I like what Proper Eris has done so far. I really like the performance there recently at top Bombay Pat. Even yeah, a lot of people are putting him forward. I'd have cheap sandwiches ahead of Bombay Pat probably. Is Fay Point Ranger? Fay Point Ranger is going, isn't it?
I'm not too sure, to be honest with
I think Fay Point Ranger may be going. If he is, I think I just worry about that run into the bend for Fay Point Ranger at the moment. Is he mature enough to kind of cope? But he has a nice bit of racing. I thought maybe at a huge price, just again it would be tiny interest, because my focus for the Derby will be watching and the progress of Bacchus Diamond again without a financial interest. But I thought maybe Solomio, who ran very, very well in Limerick in the Kirby, I think in the final, if it had broken at all, it might just have been up inside the winner at the first bend, and maybe made a race of it with Fay Point Ranger. It doesn't have a lot of time to go learning at this stage. You're not going to get forgiven an awful lot in Toaster. But I think Solomio is in it. I saw it round about 50-1. It would only be a token interest, but I just don't want to back Bacchus Diamond at 9-2. Where do you stand with Bacchus Diamond at the moment?
you. Look, I still think he's one of the fastest greyhounds we've ever seen. But 92, I couldn't back him at 92. If the greyhound told me himself he was going to win, I still wouldn't back him at 92. It's just too short. I just don't know how the long run to the pickup is going to affect him, because he's the type of dog, for me, he just puts everything in, doesn't he? He puts everything in, and he's going to be putting everything in for 730 or 740 yards. He's going to get around to the far side there week in, week out. Look, I'd love to see him win it. It's been a long time since we've seen a dog win the Derby in the same year. I know it's different years, but Tom's the Best was the last one to do it in different years. And look, if he wins the English Derby back to his home pitch in Shelbourne Park,
Yeah.
I'd love to see him go well. But 9-2 is very short, isn't it?
What price would it be for an Irish Derby if he wins the English Derby?
Probably 9-2.
We could be talking about like Tiger Woods levels of going into majors and being like 6-4 or even money or whatever he was at times,
Yeah,
which is
remember
insane.
Messi 6-4 to score the first goal. So that's the English Derby. As you can see, this week's podcast has been sponsored by Peter Cronin. There's 200 dogs in the English Derby. Peter Cronin has two, and we've picked one each. Tommy, that's it from us here this Tuesday evening. Anything else to say before we hit the road?
No, we've look at. I thought like the weekend was relatively quiet. And it's only relatively quiet, relative to this weekend with the English Derby starting and everything that kicks off after that. It's a bit like the horse racing season. Once you get out of Cheltenham and Aintree, then the flat season just takes over, and it's just like a juggernaut right through until about October. I think it's pretty much the same with the Greyhound season now. So roll on.
Roll on. Well, that's it for myself and Tommy. Big congratulations to Tom O'Neill and Ballyhooly Bruno, who won the big race at the weekend. And the best of luck to all of the Irish connections with runners in the upcoming Derby. It starts on Thursday, and also on Thursday is Barry Drake's podcast. Be sure to give that a listen. That's it for myself and Tommy this Tuesday evening. Have a good week, and we'll chat to you again soon. All the best.
Callaway Park Greyhound Stadium is celebrating 25 amazing years. Join us Friday, May 16th for a fantastic night to celebrate with half-price entry, free finger food and live music after the racing. Gates open from 6 p.m. Don't miss the party at Callaway Park.
This podcast was brought to you by Greyhound Racing Ireland.